Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Oklahoma City Planning Commission for Thursday, April the 28th. Happy to have everybody here at City Hall. Before we get started, just a couple of announcements. If you could, go ahead and turn your cell phones to silent. So when we get through the items, we don't have any interruptions there. Also, if you want to be heard on an item today and you haven't already done so, these little white sheets of paper are out front on the table. You can fill one out, hand them to staff, and they'll be sure that I get it. At the appropriate time on an item, I will call and ask if anybody wants to be heard. At that point, you know, if you haven't signed up here and I don't have it, I'll ask you to raise your hand. I'll have you come up. Start out by giving us your name and address for the record, and then we allow our guests and visitors 5 minutes to tell us anything they want us to know. We do reserve the right to limit comments if they're redundant or not on topic or something of that nature. But with those things in mind, we'll get started, and our first order of business is to receive the minutes from the April 14th, 2022 meeting. If there's no discussion from commissioners on those minutes, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the minutes.
Okay. I have a motion to receive the minutes, and I'll take the second on PrimeGov.
Got it.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Privet. Please cast your votes. All votes should be cast. Janice and Kamal are not, they're absent. And those minutes are received. Next item on the agenda today are uncontested continuance requests. We have 3 of those. Mr. Chambliss, you want to read those for us?
Yeah, the first is item 13, Spud 1401, request deferral to May 26. Item 14, C7388 to June 23rd. And item 15, C7410 to June 23rd.
Okay. Is there anybody that wanted to be heard on any of those items today? All right. Seeing nobody, if there's no discussion from commissioners, I'll take a motion on those continuances as read.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the continuances as read.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the continuances. It's been seconded by Commissioner Hinkle. Please cast your votes when available. All votes should be cast, and those continuances are approved. New requests, I don't know of any. Is there anybody here today that wants to request a continuance on anything on today's agenda? Okay. Seeing nobody, we'll move on. Next item on our agenda is our consent docket. We do have 7 items on that agenda. Do you want to read, or on the docket today, do you want to read those, Mr. Chambliss?
Yes. Item 1, CE 1072, that's to close and vacate an east-west alley at 601 Northeast 6th Street. Item 2, CE 1073, that's to close a 10-foot utility easement at 11121 Jonah Drive. Item 3, C7422, final plat of Montage 4, located north of Southwest 44th and west of Mustang Road. Item 4, C7423, final plat of Canyon Ridge Estates 1, located south of Southwest 44th and east of Sarah Road. Item 5, C7424, final plat of Montreux 5, located north of Northwest 150th and west of County Line Road. Item 6, PC 10809, application to rezone 3233 Northwest 10th Street to the R4 district. And item 7, PC 10810, application to rezone 1010 North Oklahoma, 1324 Oklahoma, and 616 Walnut to the DBD and DTD1 districts.
Okay, is there anybody who wants to be heard on those items today? I have one person that's pulled up. This is for item 6, right, ma'am? Item 6? Yes. Okay, we'll pull number 6 from the consent docket. Are there any other items anybody wants to be heard on today? Okay. If there's no discussion from commissioners on those items or concerns, I'll take a motion to approve the consent docket excluding item 6.
Move to approve the consent docket excluding item 6.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Clare. I have a motion. I'll take the second on PrimeGov to approve the consent docket excluding item 6. Please cast your votes. All votes should be cast, and those items are approved. Next item on the agenda begins items requiring separate vote, and we'll begin with item number 6 since it was pulled from the consent docket. Is the applicant present for item 6? Would you mind coming up and giving us your name and address for the record real quick?
Michael DeYoung, I represent the applicant Northwest 10th Real Estate LLC. 4820 Old Leonard Way, Choctaw, Oklahoma. I'm an attorney for the company.
Got it. And the basis of the application is just to rezone to R4. Anything you want to add to that?
This was apparently something that happened a long time ago. This has been operating as a long-term care facility for more than 40 years. In the process of doing some HUD financing, we discovered that a portion of the 4 lots was actually zoned R1 instead of R4. I don't know when that mistake occurred, how long ago it occurred, but in any event, we're simply trying to clarify this. This doesn't change any of the use of the property at all. In fact, it conforms to what the use has been for as long as I'm aware.
Facilities continue to operate, no change of plan there?
No change
from
of
your
plans
point?
at all.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
All right.
absolutely none.
All right, well, let me see. We'll call up who signed up to speak. And forgive me, ma'am, I cannot read your last name. I'm so sorry. Curran? Okay, Rhonda Curran, if you want to come up and give us your name and address for the record and let us know what your concerns are on the item, ma'am.
Okay, it's Rhonda Curran, 3233 West Park Place.
Welcome.
Thank you. I was just wanting to find out what they were going to do with the rezoning, but if they're not going to do anything, then I'm good with it. I just wanted to make sure. It's a parking lot,
Right.
and I live right across the street, so.
The parking lot portion, according to our staff report, is zoned R1, which is the problem. The rest of the facility is zoned R4. You can see that dividing line there that's on your screen presently. So that area is what's the only thing that's being rezoned. That's why I asked the question a little bit rhetorically, was we're also told in the staff report there's no change to the
Okay,
use at
that's
this point.
why I heard him say that there would be no change. That's what I wanted to make sure they weren't going to change the facility for a different use or do something else with it.
Got it.
So, okay.
Okay. Well,
I'm
thank
good.
you very much for coming down.
Can
We
I
appreciate
leave?
it. You're
No?
fine. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes. Enjoy your day. If there's no further discussion from commissioners on this item, and unless Commissioner Highsmith, you have any questions on this, I'll just take a motion if you'd like to make it.
Sure. Make a recommendation or make a motion to recommend approval on item 6.
Okay, I have a motion to recommend approval to City Council on PC 10809 that does not have any TEs. It's been seconded by Commissioner Clare. Please cast your votes. All votes should be cast, and that item is recommended for approval. Next item on our agenda today is item number 8. Mr. Campbell.
Item 8 is SPUD 1402, application by Escrow Strategy to rezone 2201 12th Street from R2 to SPUD 1402.
Good afternoon. My name is Rob Elliott with Elliott Architects. We're at 900 Northwest 6th Street in Oklahoma City. We're representing Escrow Strategy as the owner. They hope to perhaps do some remodeling on the property and need to bring the zoning into conformance with its use.
Okay, excellent. Commissioner Highsmith, this is your award. Do you have any questions or concerns for the applicant?
I do not. I reviewed this case. I'll be honest and say that I didn't even find it necessary to reach out to the applicant. To me, the reading of the zoning seems to really, or the reading of the SPUD language seems to simply be trying to bring the current property really into compliance with what it is as well. Staff has a recommendation of approval. I didn't see any TEs if I remember right, so I think it's an easy case, but I'm happy to entertain any discussion, of course.
Okay. I don't have anybody signed up to speak, but I'll ask the question. Is there anybody that would like to be heard today on SPUD 1402, item number 8 on today's agenda? Seeing nobody, if there's no further discussion from commissioners on the item, I take a motion from you, Commissioner Highsmith.
I make a motion to recommend approval on SPUD 1402.
Okay. I have a motion to recommend approval to City Council, SPUD 1402. It's been seconded by Commissioner Clare. Please cast your votes. 1, 2, 3, all votes should be cast. And that item is recommended for approval. Good luck with your project. Thank you. Next item on the agenda today is item number 9.
Item 9 is C-7425. It's a preliminary plat of villas at Cavallo, located south of Southwest 44th and east of Mustang Road, and a variance to section 5.3.1.D5 of the subdivision regulations.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. This is the plat application for a development that you saw about 6 weeks ago. The PUD that came through actually went to City Council this Tuesday and was approved by City Council. So it's a single-family development with commercial on the corner of 44th and Mustang Road. There are 8 TEs, all of which we agree to, and we do need the variance on TE2, as JJ said. If you recall, we had the discussion at the PUD hearing about access onto Mustang Road. There was an unsuccessful request to lower the speed limit on Mustang Road, and based upon site distance issues, it was determined that this access point is not safe. So in the PUD, we were granted ability not to access here. And of course, the floodplain and floodway is significant through here, so there is no other place to provide a connection. We do still meet all the access requirements, though. We have a boulevard entry here and then another entrance here. So we don't need a variance to the number of access points. It's just a variance to the interconnection on adjacent parcels. And again, we did discuss that at length at the Planning Commission PUD hearing. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, we need the variance on TE2.
Okay, appreciate that. I'll just note for the purpose of the record, staff tells us in our report that the design of this preliminary plat conforms with subdivision regulations as they relate to access requirements for subdivisions between 101 and 200 lots, and that it is also in conformance with the requirements of PUD 1880. In the absence of a Ward 3 commissioner, I'll just say I looked at this. I understand the applicant's request for the lack of connectivity. I don't have any personal objection to it, but I'll defer to my other commission members to give feedback there if they think differently. It's pretty straightforward. Anybody have any thoughts on this one? Any concerns? Okay. Is there anybody that wants to be heard today on C-7425, item 9 on today's agenda? Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, I will need a motion first on the variance and then a motion on the item, and the applicant has indicated that they are in agreement with all the TEs as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve the variance to section 5.3.1.d.5 to the subdivision regulations.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the variance as read. It's been seconded by Commissioner Hinkle. Please cast your votes. This item requires 6 votes for approval. All votes should be cast. And that item, that variance is approved. Need a motion on the item itself.
Move to approve item C-7425, subject to the technical evaluations.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the preliminary plat for C-7425, subject to the technical evaluations. It's been seconded by Commissioner Hinkle. Please cast your votes. All votes should be cast. And that item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda today is item 10.
Item 10 is C-7431, preliminary plat of Layton Lakes, located north of Memorial Road and east of North Morgan Road.
Good afternoon. Kendall Dillon with Craft and Toll, representing the applicant. Preliminary plat that conforms both to your subdivision regulations as well as the PUD. In fact, it's a duplicate of the master development plan that was approved within the PUD, with the exception of there's a fewer lots on this preliminary plat than was illustrated in that PUD. 7 TEs, we're in agreement with all of them. TE number 2, we decided, and it's reflected now in the revised layout, that there is the street stub to the north on that far west street. So it's showing on the illustration there in front of you.
Oh, I see.
Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, this is Commissioner Clare's ward. Commissioner Clare, you have comments on this one?
Just that I did not have any communication with either the applicant or any concerned residents. I've reviewed it. Seems pretty straightforward. I have no issues or concerns, so unless there's further discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, I'll just note for the purpose of the record that the design of this preliminary plat, according to staff, conforms with the subdivision regulations as they relate to access requirements for subdivisions between 101 and 200 lots, and that it also is in conformance with the underlying zoning. So if there's no further discussion for commissioners, is there anybody who wants to be heard on C-7431? Okay. If there's no discussion, I'll take your
All
motion.
right. I'll move to recommend approval of item C-7431, subject to the technical evaluations.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the preliminary plat, C-7431, subject to the technical evaluations as outlined. It's been seconded by Commissioner Privet. Please cast your votes. And that item is approved. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda today is item 11.
Item 11 is SPUD 1386, application by David Box to rezone 1612 and 1614 Northwest 17th Street to SPUD 1386.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant, who is also here with us. This is an item that would allow for a multifamily development in an area by the plaza. It's an area that has changed significantly over the last 10 years. There have been an influx of development, an influx of people, all of which have been positive for the city, but most importantly, that area. You'll notice that there are several continuances that this item has faced, and so what we wanted to do is to spend enough time with Commissioner Highsmith that we had a site plan that ultimately he thought was something he was comfortable with, so we want to thank him for his efforts in this. This site plan has gone through multiple changes. At first, we had some parking in front and parking throughout the site. And so what we've done is, similar to a traditional home in this area, we forced all the parking behind and put all of the structures to that front. And so with that, we think what we have now is something that is compatible. Here's some elevations. Compatible with the area, compatible with the design of the structures in the area, and something that'll be a product that will be beneficial to the Plaza District. There are a handful of TEs, most of which we agree to. I will tell you we agree to all of them except for TE2 and TE4, and I'd like to discuss those. I'll start with TE4. TE4 says that the front setback shall be 25 feet. We have 15 because we believe that's what the setback is of the structures to our east and west based upon an extraordinary right-of-way that exists there. So what we'd like to do, rather than putting a number on it, is just say that our front building line shall match the building line of the existing structures that exist to the east and to the west. The concern in the Gatewood UCD is that we line up those structures, and so rather than having a number, we think it satisfies staff's concern by just agreeing to line up our structures with what exists to the east and west to keep that consistent building line. And on TE2, staff asked us to limit the number of dwelling units to 12. In the SPUD, we have 16. Presumably, the concern is the number of people that will be on the site. I can tell you that the 16 proposed dwelling units are all intended to be one bedroom. So what we can do is add language to the SPUD that each dwelling unit shall be limited to a one-bedroom dwelling unit. If you take staff's requested TE of 12, in theory, you could have 12 three-bedroom apartments, and there you'd have 36 bedrooms on site. So we think that by allowing the 16 but limiting them to single-bedroom dwelling units, that we actually are reducing the density from what staff would otherwise seek. So again, we agree to all the TEs except on 4. We would ask that the number be removed and instead require us to match up our front building line with the structures that exist to our east and west. And on 2, we would ask that it be deleted and we can add a new TE that the 16 units proposed in this BUD be limited to one-bedroom units.
Okay. Commissioner Highsmith?
David, just for my clarification on the item on TE4, when we are defining it as meeting the existing setback of the structures to the east and west, are you including the porch?
I believe so. The issue is, we believe that the structures on the east and west, however the building code defines it, are actually only 15 feet because the right-of-way, I think, is larger than what staff is viewing. And so what they view as 25, we see as 15 because of the extra 10 foot of right-of-way that exists through there. So,
well, I guess I just want to be clear, is the intent to line up the front of the building with the porches of the existing?
yes.
Right, okay.
That's not really,
Well, these are required to have front porches, though.
Yeah, but your porches would then be,
No, I think our intent is the porches to line up with the porches. Yeah. So the TE7 that we agreed to is front porches. So our intent is whatever the furthest front line is will be our furthest front line. And we're required to have porches.
Okay.
So it'll be porches.
yeah, okay. Well, that's what I wanted to hear. To me, that makes sense.
yeah, that doesn't seem to be what this
It looks,
hearing indicates.
right, it almost looks like your porches are proud of their porches, just on the exhibit. and
Yeah.
that's
So
why
I mean,
wanna
again,
ask.
our intent is,
That it all lines up.
uh-huh.
I think if that's the case, I
Okay.
think that's my intent as well, so, okay. You got,
Well, I'm trying to make sure that we can memorialize what you're trying to accomplish in the verbiage of the amended TE. So you would say something like the setback.
setback should match, I think, generally, right? Like, we
yeah.
just need to match the
Inclusive
existing.
of front porches, or, how do you want to stipulate that?
You could say the front setbacks shall be
Consistent.
consistent with the properties to the east and the west, inclusive of front porches.
I think I'm good with that. Are you-
Okay, yeah, you're the attorney.
Not today, it's Susan. Susan Randall, municipal counselor.
I'm good with it.
Okay, there we have it.
There's plenty of attorneys sitting on this horseshoe.
Not today, there's not, there's one.
One,
Nope.
2, 3.
Anyway, anything else, Commissioner Smith?
No, I think at this point, it'd be good to hear from,
Yeah, I do have
From
one
the
person
public,
signed up to
yeah.
speak. I will just note for the purpose of the record, we did receive a couple letters, some of which came in late, but I did review those. I'm sure other commissioners received them and reviewed them as well. But I have Anjit Badgett, is that, Ms. Badgett, is that you? Please come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Anjette Badgett. I live at 1608 Northwest 17th, and I wasn't going to speak. My sister is really a speaker. I oppose all of this because I live at 1608 Northwest 17th, which is east of the development that they're trying to tear down and present this 18-unit apartment complex, or 16. Really, every weekend, the Gatewood Plaza, I know that's an amazing thing that's going on for everybody. Most people that come in don't live in the community, majority. So they're parking. I've had people park in my driveway. You don't live here. They park in my driveway. They park anywhere they can get to go pick up a pie or whatever. There's no parking on the street. There's children that play there. There's excessive speeding. There's a high school right down the street. I promise you, I've lived there for 20 years. My mom is directly across the street from me. She's lived there for 50 years. You guys are taking away the whole, and I understand Oklahoma's trying to develop more housing for everybody in this community. No one can afford to move in it. One bedroom, there's a community that's built around the corner from me, 18 units, 1 bedrooms. I've heard plenty of people complain. There's no parking. There's abandoned cars on the street. I have called about those cars, and I don't even live there. People are, can I let her finish speaking, please? Because this is who was going to speak, Vernona. Can I let her finish? This is my sister.
You sure can.
Okay,
If you'd
please
like
let
to
her
give us
finish,
your
'cause
name
I'm
and
really,
address.
I can say a lot, and I will keep going, and y'all say, put her out, please. Please, but I oppose. Go ahead, darling.
Well, glad you were here today. Give us your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Oppose all of it.
My
Sorry.
apologies. I was like, that meeting is gonna be 4 hours long. We're last on the agenda. We have time. And sure enough, we didn't. So good afternoon. My name is Vernona Dismuke, and though I'm here with my sister, we really represent a large family and neighbors who we've spoken to about these projects over the last few months. Unfortunately, getting people to show up to support is difficult when the agendas change so frequently. I've heard other concerns about public notice, and I share those concerns. Neighbors have a right to know what's happening in a big way. My purpose here today is to express opposition to the application to change the existing zoning regulations as it relates to SPUD 1386 and 1401. We respectfully ask that any changes made to this block be made with the existing zoning laws as they stand. My family is heartbroken over the recent developments as it relates to our block. We've been there 50 years and have plans to hang around 50 more years. Our home at 1609 Northwest 17th is truly our family's home and an inspiration to our neighborhood. We've never talked about leaving that area until now. We support the inevitability of new development and understand the city's desire to gain more housing. However, Gatewood neighborhood has done its share of adding beds to the city. From McKinley Avenue, Northwest 16th Street, and Blackwelder Avenue, many new residences have been built, but the school is closed. For the most part, all of them have been built so that the character has not changed, except for the monstrosity on 22nd and Blackwater. It's been okay. The Plaza District has been great for the businesses that operate there, but living so close to the district is a challenge. The number of cars that drive down the street has increased exponentially, and the parking situation is horrendous on the weekends. It truly creates a safety issue for those walking or biking with their children or animals, and we expect that to get worse. Our concern is that the development as planned will add more chaos to our already fragile block. Specifically, we're concerned about the density. The block was built for 16 homes, and while we have a mix of renters and homeowners, the block has always been residentially stable. Doubling the number of residents in one small block isn't fair to anyone living there, especially since the units could be used for temporary living. In the last 2 weeks, my sister's car was broken into, and our cameras caught another stranger walking in my mother's driveway. In 50 years, this has never happened, but people attract other people. It's great on paper, but it's not when you're trying to live in a safe environment. My mother's 85 and has always lived alone without any concerns on our part until January of this year. We're very concerned about the number of cars that will be added to the street. Parking already is at capacity. Opening one side will not relieve anything for anyone there, so the question is, where will the new residents park? We hope that the plans will include parking in the back of the building. We're also concerned about the scale of the project. The proposed project, as we understand it, will be out of character for the area. The house at 1608 has recently been able to get sun in her yard by cutting the trees. A tall building would be oppressive to her and her ability to enjoy her property. We're asking that the scale be broken up so that whatever units are added will be in line with the character of the block as it is. Again, we know that change is coming. We want the city, the neighborhood, the block, and the investors to all win in this thing, but we don't want it to be at the expense of what has been maintained up until now, a wonderful, cozy spot that is friendly, neighborly, and safe. Thank you to Commissioner Asa for hearing our concerns, and thanks also to the rest of you who have a hard job to do. We certainly respect your service to the city.
And I just wanted to finish with.
Thank you, Mrs. Mute.
Okay, I just wanted to finish with the parking, because I was here when he made his, what he wanted to have done. Parking in the front. If my mom would have known that the place next to her was a garden 50 years ago, and they put the parking in the front, there are 4 units. There's 18 cars over there every night. I have pictures of them. So when you say that you're going to have 1 parking space per apartment, nobody, if 2 people move in, there's 2 cars. If 1 person move in, I have 2 cars. But then there's 4 cars at my house. But that's my driveway. So you can't tell me that 12 units, 14, whatever units, 1 parking per apartment, there will be nowhere to park. And also, I do believe, because I've seen it, and I just mentioned where people are running to get a pie and literally pulling my driveway. I don't know you. I'm going to pick up a pie before it closes. This is my driveway. It's my personal property. They don't care because there's nowhere to park. And people aren't aware that there is paid parking south of, I think it's 15th or something, for the Plaza District, which people don't use. They use the block. And I'm serious. Anybody that's my mother's age that's driving, I feel sorry for them trying to get through because you're going to hit a car. I've seen that happen too. I just wanted to mention that. So the parking in the front, I oppose that.
Parking is
The
proposed
alley.
for the rear.
Okay, because the alleyway that's there every night, and I've turned in a complaint because of the new complex, the arcade that's on the corner, the gondolas, there is a noise limit or something. Every night, when they pick up their trash every week, it's like bang. I mean, it's ridiculous. The noise is ridiculous, just from the Plaza District.
Sure.
And I worked at TGN, I can tell you the whole block, because I've been over there 50 years, so I know the whole block, what was on that block. And it's never been noisy like it is now.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Ms.
But
Badger.
I
We
definitely
appreciate it.
oppose it. You're
Thanks for coming down today. Commissioner Highsmith, I don't have any, is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this item today? Those are the only folks that I had signed up. Okay.
Well, I think to me, this type of item is exactly the kind of thing that I got on the Planning Commission to discuss. And I'd love to take just a quick minute to talk about a few thoughts, since to some degree this is a bit my swan song up here. So for me, this is a perfect example of the difficulty that really the systems of control in this city puts us in. What I mean by that is, honestly, I think this commission is the bottleneck. We are the bottleneck for development. We put our foot on the scale. And in a system where the city government, the state government, and the federal government is not building us housing, and won't, because that's not how it works. We rely on private development to come in and build additional housing. And we are currently, as we all know, in a housing crisis. We rely on the private sector to build our housing. There's no other options out there for the rest of the Oklahoma citizens that need places to live in, options for different levels of affordability to get that. And the more that we prevent the market from answering those questions in our system, the less housing supply we have. Housing, everybody's talking about, regardless of these new units going up, they're unaffordable. They're unaffordable because it is a simple supply and demand question. We are not meeting the demand, and thus prices go up. We need more supply. The only way to get that supply in our system is private development. Look, I'll be the first to say that I get it. It's tough in these neighborhoods. There are and there will be growing pains. But this is how cities develop organically over time. Prior to zoning codes writ large, there was no system to complain about these things. And prior to zoning, we have really good examples of this even in our city. When development came through, it was fairly common, especially for historic structures, to move them. We literally moved them to new neighborhoods to make way for development. But now, it is a protectionist environment where we decide that everything needs to be pushed through the eye of the needle at Planning Commission to determine whether it's acceptable or not to the neighbors. I get it. Look, if some big change was happening in my neighborhood right next to me, I'd be worried about it. But the problem is, development goes where people want to be. People want to be in the plaza. It is a ball of energy over there of potential, and we only slow it down as a piece of that puzzle up here. It is what it is, but I'm just making the point to say that honestly, like, it would be hard for me in any context to do anything other than support this item, especially seeing a developer that has been willing to try to meet the formal aspects of the design of the project to match the neighborhood the best they can. I think the future of the plaza is not what it is today. I don't think any area of the city should have a future based on what it is today. I think cities, again, grow and change organically over time. That's the point. The whole point, in my opinion, of this commission is to manage that change. It's not to prevent it, it's to manage it. I can't think of any city other than ours that completely is devoid of that second ring of development that other cities have. Because we stopped right around white flight time and demolished half of our downtown famously. And we just don't have these neighborhoods where you can go in with infill development naturally and be within the context that would make sense. We have to create it. And the only places to create those, honestly, in a way that makes sense, in my opinion, is in the core. Ward 6 is the core. If you live in a core neighborhood, I'm sorry, but you need to be ready to have the character of your areas change. Nowhere is it more appropriate than in core neighborhoods. We can't push these things to the outside edge of the city. And to say, look, there's all this land just south of the river or next to the park. It's not happening because people aren't there. Development goes where the excitement is. It's the path of least resistance and it's natural. And to tell developers, no, you need to go take a loss over there before you come in here and get a win. Again, we're bottlenecking it and we're stopping it and it's hurting everybody. So I really hope, I'll be sad to be dropping off the commission. I really wanted to be a part of the zoning code update, and I know I'm getting a little off topic, but I'm hoping that is the outcome of that effort. I think we've got to do better for the citizens of Oklahoma City. I think, it needs to be sensitive in some way, but it also needs to push the line. And I think 16 units here, I think the developers doing everything they can to do the right thing here. It's impossible for me to put the desires of, honestly, the neighborhood over the desires of the rest of this city and the health of the city. These things are required. It is literally required. We're taking our vaccination shots here, in my opinion. I just don't think that there's any other way to push forward the development of the city than to push for these types of developments. We need this. That's, kind of big picture, zoomed out, my thoughts on this. I'm happy to talk about any specific items, but I think, the applicant has addressed the TEs here. They've addressed all of my personal concerns. I will say that, the breakdown, in my opinion, also of why we can get bad outcomes even with good zoning really comes to design elements. I wish that we had more ability up here sometimes to control design more so than the use. I think, right, the failure at 22nd and Blackwelder is a failure of scale, not of zoning. But, we got a ways to go and we got a lot to figure out, and I'm sorry I won't be a part of that. But on this item, those are my thoughts, and I'd love to, entertain the thoughts of my fellow commissioners.
Anybody else have thoughts or comments on this one?
David, I'm curious how you're going to solve the trash issue.
So it's loaded by the alley, right? Everything will be out the alley, and we'll just have to work with whoever our provider is on that. I mean, the architect's aware of it. Sam Gresham is the architect that has designed this, and he's going to have to find a way to make it work. We're not that far along yet.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a few. We certainly can agree that 22nd and Blackwelder is a failure of scale. I disagree with almost everything else you had to say, except that it is our job here to manage growth. I mean, you're talking about the city developing organically. The plaza didn't just pop up by itself. That was a matter of really concentrated and purposeful investment, a lot of investment by the city to facilitate that growth. And one of the basic reasons why the city did that was to help stabilize the neighborhoods around the plaza, to keep them from falling into further and further decline. Excuse me, you spoke, let me speak, please.
But you're talking about the recent redevelopment, not the original development of the plaza, correct?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I don't know how much investment there was originally by the city in the plaza.
I'm just saying that the plaza exists because originally it was organic. It was there for us to redevelop and save later on because of the organic development of it originally. That's all.
Okay, well, I guess we don't really know the answer to that question, but
Most of it was pre-zoning.
We'll take that as for the sake of argument, okay? But in my view, and I have had this view not just today, but for quite a long time, the plaza is like the tail wagging the dog. We don't have any bigger picture plan for the development of this area, and the impact that it's having on the neighborhoods that its revitalization was designed to save and strengthen isn't even being, in my view, really measured methodically, let alone taken into consideration. This isn't an eye of the needle. We're not here putting our foot on the scale. We're not helping some people and punishing others, or disregarding the views of neighbors, or elevating the views of neighbors. We're here to do what's best for the city. But strong neighborhoods are one element of that. I don't think that there is any development that's going on in the city that's organic, in the sense that it's not being facilitated by the government at various levels, including the things that the city does to help it. Now, I'm a big believer in infill development, but I don't think it has to overrun the neighborhoods in which it occurs. I believe this particular development is too dense for the area that it sits on. I think it's too much for where it is. But having said that, the point is that there needs to be a bigger view of what's really happening with the development. I don't think that the fact that the plaza is at the moment thriving, is the only consideration here. We have this kind of boom and bust economy with development as well as with everything else. And I think that the decisions that we make here need to be very much long-term decisions. When the plaza is no longer the hot new thing, do we just transfer all that energy someplace else and make something else the big hot new thing? And if that happens, what's going to become of this area? It's gone through boom and bust before, and the bust was pretty ugly. The time that it took, the effort that it took, the citizen participation that it took to save this area is, it took decades. You don't just toss it out because it's not convenient at the moment.
Well, I'll respond by saying I basically disagree also with everything she said. I think it's a short view and not a long view, and I'd be happy to debate it at any length, but I think the best evidence for my case is the fact that, again, if you go look up the date of the structures in Plaza, it was pre-zoning. They occurred before zoning. Most of the good areas of the city occurred pre-zoning. You can see the effect of zoning because if you look at all the developments after the 40s and the 50s, they all look car-oriented, suburbia subdivisions. We don't build we don't build plazas anymore. I hope we can get there, but the only way to get there is through this commission, and I hope you guys take a long view and push for those things. But I don't believe that opinion gets us there. So that's all I have. I'm willing and ready to make a motion on this item, but.
Let me see if there's anybody else who has comments from the commission. Anybody else have comments on this or things they want to say? I am curious about one thing from the staff perspective, just technically based on our staff report. Staff report indicates that proposed 16 units are above the LUDA range in the R4 standards, with the applicant's agreement to limit those to one-bedroom units. What does that do to the dwelling units per acre by definition, like by code? How would that reduce them, and how many units will we be talking about? Does that change the calculus? I would assume it would. Anybody?
The problem is it really doesn't, because dwelling unit isn't really defined by number of bedrooms.
I understand. That's what I was trying to, so it would still, even with that agreement by the applicant, it would still be above what the LUDA would allow, right?
It would be still above the LUDA range, yes. That's one consideration. The other, of course, is scale, bulk, setbacks, building height. Those are all considerations at your disposal.
And in terms of building height, now that we agreed to 35, we agree to the building height that the rest of the neighborhood is zoned under. We agree to match setbacks.
So the building height is in line, the setback is now in line, parking's in the rear, and all this is memorialized into the staff report and its current comments, or?
Yes.
Okay, we need to add the adjustments to the TEs, but otherwise that would.
Yeah, just to be clear, though, that makes the rendering does not match what the master design statement would say with the TEs as.
Well, that's why I wanted to make the points there, was just to make sure, because I don't care about that rendering.
Right.
I'm curious what the ultimate MDS is going to say, because that's just a picture. So at 35 feet, it would bring it down from that scale. Is that your understanding?
Yes, and that, again, the TEs will make the MDS change, and we can revise the site plan accordingly, but yes, the MDS will have the parking in the rear, the height, the setbacks, so that all those scale and things are encapsulated in the MDS, not on a site plan.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from anybody? If not, Asa, if you want to make a motion, Commissioner Highsmith, feel free.
I'm sorry, I did not take notes on the TEs, so my question.
I'll help.
Yeah.
So TE2 is amending the language just to say the number of dwelling units shall be limited to 16 one-bedroom only units. TE4 is being amended to say the front north setback shall match the existing front building lines of the lots to the east and the west, inclusive of front porches. And those are the only two changes that were articulated in the record from the applicant.
That's right, we agree with the rest as written.
And which does include the 2.5 stories, 35 feet. It does include that parking would be in the rear of the structure. Were there any other concerns that were referenced? Correct.
Yes.
Anything?
Nope.
Okay.
Real quick, though, before I make the recommendation, I do want to make the point to Mrs. Dismukes and her sister that this is not the last stop. This has to go to city council. I do say, you know, like definitely reach out to councilperson Heyman and, you know, the rest of the council to let them understand your views. You know, again, that we make a recommendation, they make the decision, so.
And I think, Ms. Dismuke, if I may, I think it's important that you do that, because what's really hard for me as a planning commissioner is I've heard varying arguments from commissioners both today and over the last 5 years that I've sat on the commission. And the thing for me that's a challenge is when we're told there are areas that are transit-oriented, that are closer to the city center, these are the areas where the city wants to incentivize development. I think it's very important that you relay to the council folks your concern over the impact that that has on neighborhoods and areas where you're actually feeling those effects. I don't live in the area. I've been there to get pie. I have never parked in your driveway, I assure you. I'm 100% sure. But I've driven that 17th Street, and I feel really sorry for you in that sense. I do. There are parts of the city where I'm told we're not supposed to be concerned about street parking. I wouldn't want to live there. So I understand and I empathize with it. I mean, I'm supporting the policies that have been adopted by the city council and that I believe it's my job to objectively try to apply across all cases. But I hope that you'll share your concerns with your council people. Yeah.
With that said, I'd like to make a recommendation to City Council on SPUD 1386 for approval, subject to the TEs, amending TE2 to specify that there would be 16 one-bed units, and amending TE4 to specify that the setbacks will be consistent with the front porch structures?
No.
That the front setback will match the existing front building lines of the lots to the east and west, inclusive of front porches.
That.
Got it. Okay. I have a motion to recommend approval to City Council on SPUD 1386, subject to the technical evaluations as amended and read into the record by Commissioner Highsmith and myself. It's been seconded by Commissioner Hinkle. Please cast your votes. All votes should be cast, and that item is recommended for approval. Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Badgett and Ms. Smook, for being with us today. We appreciate having you. Next item on the agenda is item 12. Mr. Chambliss?
Item 12 is PC 10811. It's an application to rezone 4420 Northwest 10th Street from the C3 and R1 district to I2 moderate industrial.
Applicant present? Come on down. Bring her with you. We need both names and addresses for the record.
My name is Emma Salanik, and this is my husband, Francisco Salanik, and the address that we're trying to rezone is 4420 Northwest 10th Street.
Okay, and that's your property?
Yes, we just purchased the land last year.
Okay.
We have a body shop on 39th at the moment. It's on 39 and on Amelia, across from Dunkin' Donut. We have been renting there for quite a while, and we were trying to move that body shop over there with another business of a dealership.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you being here. This is a Ward 3 item, and given that we don't have a Ward 3 commissioner yet, I'll kind of lead off some discussion. Did you work with staff when you submitted this item in reference to the rezoning request?
We worked with Mr. David Cunningham.
Okay. And when you told Mr. Cunningham that you were going to try to rezone it to the I2 Moderate Industrial District, did he give you any feedback there?
He just said we needed to come to this meeting, and also we were made aware that there's part of the land that is actually R1. We were not aware of that when we were purchasing the property, and we also found out that it has a sewer line that cuts across the land, so we're gonna have to sometime in the future also see if we can move that so we can have a building. At this time, we're just pretty much working with the zoning to see what business we can move there for now.
Okay. I'm going to make some comments. I'm only one of the 7 people that are up here. They may have different feelings, and if so, they will verbalize those. But I want to try and give you at least my perspective on it and provide a little bit of guidance. Our staff report and staff has indicated that they're recommending denial of the application. And the reason that they're recommending denial is because of the base zoning designation. So I-2, the request for I-2, allows a lot of uses that create challenges when they're next door to a neighbor that's a residence. And because this is going to abut some residences actually on three sides technically along the southern edge of your property, that's what gave rise to them having some concerns. And I think ultimately probably recommending denial. There is an alternative to a straight zoning request, which is to, and this would be, what's your size of your parcel here? Was it SPUD size? Okay. So it would be an SPUD that you could apply for a specific use, and then it would give our commission the ability to set some compatibility, have some compatibility discussions about how we can make your use more friendly to the adjoining properties. I don't know what the outcome of that decision or discussion would be, but for me personally, supporting an I-2 application here is really hard. I don't think I can get there because of what you could do in I-2. And it's really important to understand that it isn't about you as the applicant. It's about once we rezone a property as a commissioner or recommend a rezoning to city council and then they approve it, it follows the land whether you own it or you don't own it, right? It goes on forever that way until it's rezoned again. So that creates concern for us, or at least for me. I don't want to speak for anybody else, I'm sorry. For me, it creates concern. So my personal preference would be to encourage you to consider amending your application, and I'd love feedback from my fellow commissioners on this, but to consider amending your application to an SPUD, which would allow for the auto use and then give us the ability to say, and I'm just kind of talking out loud, but okay, look, we understand that's how you want to use it. What we want you to do is we want you to screen your east and southern sides. We want you to use some different types of landscaping, et cetera, that would help make that adjoining neighbor a little more comfortable about what you're doing and protect them as you guys move forward or somebody else might move forward. I know that's a lot, but does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Just one question. Is the SPUD, would it allow for a body shop to be moved there?
Yeah, it would, and it would also allow us to exclude any uses that we think would be, maybe potentially more damaging. And I can't tell you, ma'am, with certainty that we would approve that application or recommend it, but it certainly creates more ability for us to have a discussion. I don't know if my fellow commissioners have looked at this, but I'd welcome any feedback they may have. I don't want to steer them the wrong way, but
Commissioner Claire and I are trying to divide up whether this will fall in his ward or mine. I'd be more than happy to take some time and work with these folks and see if we can't craft something that would be a little bit more palatable.
Yeah.
Certainly we can. First of all, we're looking at the area view. I don't see, anything outdoors where you are now, so you don't need I-2. That's way too much zoning for what you need.
Yep.
So I'll be glad if we want to continue this. How long do we need to continue the item?
1 month. Be at least a month, wouldn't it, to allow for an SPUD?
And I'll be glad to, staff will give you my phone number. We'll get together, I'll come and visit the shop you have now. We can talk about what you really need and we'll work this out.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
So what we'll do with your blessing, ma'am, is we'll continue the item until May the 26th. So that's not the next meeting, but the following meeting. Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay. I will work on it as soon as I can.
Okay.
Thank
That's
you.
what we'll do. If there's no discussion or concern from commissioners on it, I'll take a motion to continue. Sarah? That's why I'm before I.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we would need to notice the application by May 6th. That means we'd have to have the application changed in the master design statement. And also, while they're here, we believe their proposed use was auto sales and heavy auto repairs, so we just want to make sure, it'd be fair to them if you could gauge they could gauge your opinion on those uses.
Well, and that's why I said I don't, until the application comes forward and we understand what the real use is, I can't say with any certainty how we will feel about it at that time, but I just know the way that it's presented. I can't support it. I don't know how the other commissioners feel, so that's why I was suggesting that you try to work through that with staff. And I think Commissioner Powers is uniquely situated, given her experience on the commission, to try to assist you with, hey, this could be a problem, and so. But I think with that information, unless you had some objection, I would encourage you to just continue it till June the 9th, which would give you and the staff and Commissioner Powers more time to try to work through it. Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay. We've had this business since 2014, and right now where it is, it's right across Dunkin' Donut. We've never had any complaint from dust or noise or anything. So I hope we make it through. I hope we make it work.
Well, us too, assuming it works, we do too. So we'll try and work through it. We'll continue until June the 9th, and then we'll go from there. But we appreciate you coming down today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no discussion from commissioners, I'll take that motion. Commissioner Powers, if you'd like to make it for a continuance to June 9th, 2022.
I'll move approval of item 12, PC 10811.
Hang on one second. Do y'all have a concern with the date?
Sorry?
I told him that. I mean,
They were trying to say something. I was making sure he wasn't second guessing the date.
Just to a comment, so actually we just tried to move to this area, like my wife said, we just rented in front of Dunkin' Donuts, and we have every equipment, like the paint booth, all that. We don't have no problem even with the neighbors, and they was that shop before, they have a lot of problems, and the city comes all the time, and then because of car parkings and all that. So what we just do, try to keep clean the area, and since I rented, the city not even doesn't give us any ticket. So that's what I would try to do on 10th Street, and I know we didn't even know the residential area, but what I try to do is, I'm a wholesaler dealer license, try to work with my cars, same thing with people like insurance and all that, but my shop tried to build a lot in the front, the shop at the back, but most of it, probably what we're gonna do is just parking, like where the neighbor close is, just to park the cars. Same thing, we're gonna fence everything, so that way you don't have no problem with the neighbors and anything like that. Try to keep clean the area.
and that is exactly what I'm hoping Commissioner Powers and staff can help you work through, is what you'd need to do to make sure it's compatible, is the word we would use with the area, and keep it clean and nice for those folks that live there.
And I'm so glad to do that, to work and to keep the area clean and just for to keep the business up on 10th Street.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming down.
Much.
So, Commissioner Powers, if I understood, I want to confirm your motion. You have a motion, you were going to make a motion to continue item 12, PC 10811 to June the 9th?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a motion to continue PC 10811 to June the 9th. It's been seconded by Commissioner LaForge. Please cast your votes. All votes should be cast. Commissioner Hinkle votes in the affirmative. And that item is continued till June the 9th. We'll see you back here then. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you. The rest of the items on our agenda today have been continued to later meetings, which brings us to our additional items, communication and reports. I don't believe we have a Planning Commission committee report. Commissioner Hinkle, do we? Okay. Commission members, Commissioner Clare.
I get the impression that this is Commissioner Highsmith's last meeting.
He thinks it is.
All right. All right. Well, I just want to take the opportunity to say it's been a lot of fun. I want to share one quick story. So back when I came on, you had been without a Ward 1 commissioner for several days, and I was up in Tulsa, and I'd actually, it was my first.
That's because Commissioner Hensley just stopped showing up.
Oh, okay.
So he just quit coming. He just,
So I was up in Tulsa and getting back here for our first meeting, and I get a call from ASA, and apparently not aware that I had been approved at council and seated. So he was like, hey, I want to let you know we've got this opening. and I think you'd be really good for it. I said, great, I'll be there at 1.
It's a true story.
So, but no, I've enjoyed our dialogue and serving on the commission, and wish you all the best. And I know we'll see you around. So,
I will say, maybe I should just wait till my turn, but this wasn't, I didn't want to leave the planning commission. I didn't have much option. I did move out of my ward. I'm actually Janice's ward now, so I'm going to be bugging her nonstop. But
Was the parking situation too much for you?
I moved in with my girlfriend, and she actually lives. She owns a house in Shepherd, and so there wasn't much I could do. So yeah, I do believe, you know, I worked to find a replacement. We've met and made a recommendation to Joe Beth, and I believe everybody's happy with who that might be. I'll let that go through the official channels, but I really feel like you guys are going to be getting somebody that's very capable, intelligent, smart, good at this stuff, and knows both sides of it, who will be in Ward 6 seat here soon. I believe that person should be at the next meeting, but I don't know.
We shall see.
I thought they were set up and ready
You
to
are
go.
obligated to show up until.
I tell you what, if they can't make the next meeting, then I'll try to swing back by.
Okay,
I'll
that'd
see
be
what's
great.
up. Yeah, I'm not going to leave anybody hanging. So.
All right, Tom Brady, whatever.
Well, we certainly do not hope that this is your last meeting. We'll miss you very much, and I'll really miss disagreeing with you about almost everything.
Somebody's got to do it. Commissioner Powers, anything from you? Okay. Commissioner Privet?
No.
Commissioner Hinkle? Anything else, Commissioner Highsmith? Commissioner LaForge? You got any zingers left in you?
No, nothing besides appreciate you, Commissioner Highsmith. Hope to see you after this as well. Thanks.
I'll reserve my comments for you for later because you'll be back. But at any rate, I don't have anything else either. So, Planning Department, Sarah?
I'm a Baptist minister. I can marry them.
That would be great, Curtis. Let's get adjourned first. That doesn't sound like official business. Development Services?
No, sir.
Municipal Counselor. Citizens to be heard? Mr. Warrior left, so apparently not. If there's no other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you all.